We good? Going?
Yeah.
I think
All
we're
right.
good.
All righty.
We got drinks.
We got drinks.
The buffoon.
You got your Dr. Pepper?
We got our guests, so we're good to rock and roll. So, welcome to the second episode of the Paragon Podcast. I'm joined here with two very special guests, Graham and Jeremy. Can you guys kind of introduce yourselves and give kind of a quick introduction and background on yourselves?
Graham, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Okay. All right. Yeah. So Jeremy and I are the co-owners of Paragon here. And let's see, background. We've known each other since, I think, about 2011, 2012. Got to know each other doing autocrossing. He had a Mitsubishi Evo at the time. I had a Subaru STI. And we
Nemesis.
What's that?
Nemesis.
Yeah, essentially. And then
In the import world.
Yeah, and then Jeremy decided he was going to start selling car parts out of a back of a van, a van with no windows, all white, kind of creepy looking. And he'd come to the Subaru meets and be like, "Hey, you guys want to buy any parts?" And set up at car shows. And I knew him from there, and I'm like, "Oh, cool." I bought a few things from him, and then he started GW Auto Sports from there. And at the time, I was starting to learn how to tune cars, and we kind of put that together. He said, "Do you want to tune these?" He was working with the FRS BRZ at the time, about 2012 or so, and he said, "Do you want to tune these cars for us?" And so that's kind of how we started doing business together, in that sense. So that's kind of how we know each other. That's our background, and then we kind of went off and did different things, but always kind of stayed connected with tuning for the stuff he was doing. And then he sold those companies and said, "Hey, let's start something new." Kind of how Paragon was born.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much spot on. As Graham was saying, my original love is, I guess, imports.
Okay.
Evos, DSMs, big DSM, 1G, Flips, Talon, Laser. Some of you guys will know what that is, but that turned me into a mechanic. If you've ever owned one, you know exactly why. So did the Subaru stuff for a while, got out of the business in 2017, and then pandemic kind of hit there 2020, and I think it was August. Was it August of 19? I think GM announced the new mid-engine Corvette, and I remember I stayed up late and watched the reveal, and because everybody was kind of like, "Oh, what's going on? Is it what motor and what, etc." So watching that, I got like super excited. Like GM is finally turning the Corvette into what it should be. Maybe a couple generations ago, getting a little bit outclassed by other things. So super excited about that, and I decided I'm gonna go start another business and do parts for that car. It really fired me back up from a motorsports standpoint or a car enthusiast standpoint, where I'd kind of maybe worked too much with vehicles and then got burnt out. So it was really cool. At that time, then I reached out to Graham. I'm like, "Hey, you've been tuning forever. Are you interested in let's put something together for the C8 and start working on that and make some good go fast parts and see what happens." So here we are. Paragon started in 2020, March of 2020, and I think Pat was one of my first hires, and he's the engineer here. And our first products started selling like September of 2020.
Wow.
So, and then that started just kind of ramping up from there as we added more SKUs and started doing things like that. We got our first car maybe June of 2020, June or July. Overpaid for it. I drove up to Michigan somewhere, gave a guy 20 over sticker for it because you just at the time you couldn't get them.
No,
I think it was in Chicago, wasn't it? Guy was in Chicago.
Yeah, he might have been in Chicago.
But yeah, we had to buy one privately,
Yeah.
just to get started because the car you ordered was taking too long to get here.
Yeah.
which is what Dottie is, the gray car.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dottie's the very first one.
That was the ordered car. The
That
white
was-
car was the private party. Let's just get a car in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the white one
No.
was the first, or
Gray one, Dottie. Jesus, sorry.
Oh, you're right. I had it backwards. Gray one was the private one that we had to buy.
Gray one's the private.
Of course, white was the one you ordered
Yes,
because you
white's
always
the
buy
one I
white.
ordered.
yeah, there's
buy
kind of
white
a
cars.
pattern there. If
That's
you look
right.
out in the shop, everything is white.
But then,
Exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, and then I think our car arrived in September. So it had taken many months after that even before we got our actual car. So we used that gray car. I mean, it was torn all the way down.
Yeah.
Like we scanned everything. We couldn't get 3D files from GM at the time, which we eventually ended up getting, but our scans were just as good.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then Dottie's continued to be our test bed, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but it's always the one we've kind of pushed to the next level.
Okay.
Whereas that white car, we just, it's a street car.
Yeah.
As you know, and a lot of you guys know out there that it's Pro Charge, it's streetable, it's a very simple car. Love it, but that's where we get started, and we're just going to keep going from there.
Yeah, Dottie's kind of been always track focused.
Yes.
Do everything like what would you do for a road course car?
Yes.
And that's where we're going to get to the next level with it this year that we're pretty excited about.
Yeah. So, Corvette, has changed a lot from, releasing the very first C8 Stingray. They've now got the different variations, Z06, E-Ray, and now the ZR1. I kind of wanted to get your guys' feedback because they just released ZR1 times not too long ago at some of the tracks. And obviously being motorsports enthusiasts, you guys are seasoned track veterans, I'd say. I just kind of wanted to get your opinions and feedback on the ZR1 lap times.
Yeah, so to me, the ZR, it's an amazing car. Amazing. The power is unbelievable to have a car with that much power that's streetable.
Comes with a warranty.
Yeah,
it comes
1,000
with a warranty.
horsepower with a warranty.
That's pretty good.
That's amazing.
I'd be off the rev limiter, traction control off, doing donuts, drop it back off. Huh? And something's wrong with the motor.
They'd be like, sir, we pulled the data. It seems you did 10 donuts.
Yeah.
The limit is 8
Yeah.
before the dry sump system runs out. So warranty void.
That'd be pretty dope. But the ZR1's, until we physically get to see one, drive one, etc. It's hard to say. One thing we did want to talk about a little bit is the lap times that they just recently set. They beat the track records for production cars at VIR,
Yep.
Road Atlanta, Road America, and Watkins Glen. Now,
All the high horsepower tracks.
all the high horsepower tracks. Now, a lot of people are like, "Oh man, this thing's gonna be just a monster," with those laps time being shown. But we all need to remember that those are tracks with big straightaways. So those big straightaway tracks, of course, it's gonna be a dominator.
Yeah.
It'll be different, I think, when we start to get to some other tracks that are a little more even. If you were to see that car go around NCM versus maybe a Z06, I don't think the gap would be all that big.
Okay.
NCM doesn't have got a couple straightaways, but
Yeah.
it's got a lot of twisties that would really, I think, even it out as well.
Okay.
The cars that they're beating have a lot less horsepower to the wheels.
Correct.
So they're certainly horsepowering their way to those lap times, which is impressive. But it is, as we know from even just the Stingray, it's a very, very capable chassis. They're
Yeah.
just using horsepower to get it to those lap times, but impressive nevertheless.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of segues in a little bit, talking about track times and Stingray, because that chassis is super capable. And I think Rob and Corey touched on this in the last episode, is our gray car, Dottie, is being turned into a full wheel-to-wheel car.
Yeah.
And in doing so, I mean, this chassis is amazing. It's hard to describe how good of a job they did. We are working with another group on this called Winning Formula. They're out of Louisville, Kentucky. And they've got a couple cars as well. And they were down at Barber Motorsports Park last weekend. They've got street cars with Veris front arrow, Veris rear arrow, side arrow, wheels, tire package, brakes. That's pretty much it. Suspension. And they're turning lap times, 3/10, 2/10 faster than GT4 cars from SRO, IMSA.
Wow.
So it's unbelievable how quick this car is going to be when set up correctly. So we're doing GLGT, which is from Good Life. It's a weight to horsepower class. And then we're also going to go play in WRL in the GT4 class there with that. So we'll have probably a couple different tunes for the car, detune down for GLGT.
Okay.
And then I think for the WRL class was still a small detune, but not much.
Sound like much, yeah.
Yeah.
And GLGT is a brand new class for Grid Life this year that people are pretty excited about. Grid Life's been kind of growing into, what used to be very much a grassroots group, into where when you look out there now, there's a lot of really high-end rigs, high-end teams, RVs. It's turned into, they used to call it dirtbag IMSA, but it's not very dirtbag anymore. People are spending a lot of money to come to your grid life, and the GLTC class that Jeremy's ran in a lot and has a couple cars for, that's a lower power to weight. So that's why we detune those cars so much. You could get a Corvette out there, and there's like a C8 out there. We talked about it.
And we did talk about doing that, but the detune on that was so deep.
There are C5s that dominate that class pretty well with a
Yes.
significant detune, but it's really hard to take that much horsepower out of a V8 consistently, especially with a stock ECU, can be a bit of a challenge. The GLGT class kind of is the answer to this. They're trying to pull the Corvettes and pull these higher horsepower cars into another class where they are allowed to have more power. So the detune for this is going to be a lot less than it would have to be for the TC class. So should be a pretty neat class. The cars are going to be fast.
Yeah, you're going to have Corvettes out there. You're going to have Aston Martins, the Mercedes AMG GT4 cars, Porsches, a slew of stuff that's like that next level. And the guy's already joking. It's like SRO, dirtbag SRO.
It is essentially, yeah.
And the paddock's going to change drastically. You start bringing cars like that. I don't know how many C8s we'll see out there, right? Hopefully we're the only one.
Yeah.
We've got a package we've been working on, brakes, suspension, wheel tire, sway, all this unique stuff that we're testing inside these race groups that'll eventually, be available later for others to, set up their track car. But we want to go out and prove this package first.
Yep.
Show people that it can be a podium winning package. And go from there. So other people can do track days and be like, yeah, I need these things. And, we're all different driver levels, but I know these guys are going this fast with it. Or maybe, another team gets it and they go even faster. That's the goal. It's always, how do we up the game?
Yep.
Varus is doing a whole different aero package for us.
Okay.
For this race, like a series group rule set, which is going to be super exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe it. Like, I'm still kind of a little giddy over it. Every time I talk to the guys at Winning Formula, it really amps me up. I'm like, yeah, here we go. We waited 5 years
Yeah, it's been
before this car has become something that is motorsports raceable, relatable now.
Yep.
Because development takes that long.
Yeah.
Just like the Z06, people are like, oh, grab a Z06 and go do it. I'm like, the ECU is not unlocked. There's not the right wheel tire packages. Like, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
That'll be another 5 years down the road, probably.
Yeah.
All that stuff takes so much time to develop.
So I guess I was going to ask, so with like the rules and regulations of, that racing series, what all is the plan for Dottie? What's getting done to it?
Whole slew of stuff. So it's got, it's in Ohio right now, getting a cage.
Okay.
We've got custom wheels with offsets and widths being made by Titan 7. We should actually have prototypes here at the end of March for that car. And then production versions will follow. MCS is doing suspension for us. Essex has got the brakes. We're doing our own sway bar.
Okay.
Stock size with 4 adjustments, because really the stock bar is fine. But on a track, it's nice to have those quick adjustments versus getting into the suspensions being quickly, stiffen, soften, depending upon driver and track. So that'll be nice. And it's pretty basic.
Okay.
Really about it. Seats, safety.
Yep.
And go. And plus a little bit of a detune. So it shouldn't be hard on the motor, shouldn't be hard on the transmission, because everything's running below its threshold, I guess. It's not being strung out as hard.
Yeah.
So it should be a super reliable track car.
Just pump gas fuel.
Yeah.
Don't have to use exotic
91
fuels.
and
Or
go.
93. Either one be fine in there.
Okay.
So I think we're going to try to leave the heads cam in there, because
I was just going to ask.
that is the heads cam car. Now we've had a bit of a debate, because if really the heads cam excels at the top end, where we have to kind of limit it, but we'll make that determination once we get to play with the tuning and see if we can pull it down where we want. We might still gain some nice low end torque that we want.
Yeah, the theory is that cam will help with low end torque, which helps out of the corner. You need that.
Yeah.
So
And what about aero? I know you said Varus is working on something. I guess the full Varus kit.
yeah, so the Varus kit will change a bit for track use. The front splitter will get bigger
Okay.
And then there will become ducting underneath that splitter that helps create downforce, as well as a change in the rear diffuser. And then we get the big boy wing for the back of the car. So they're standard wing. The UCW, absolutely fine. Swan neck version's coming out here in 2 weeks or so, depending upon when this airs. And then they've got the big V1X wing, which will be on that car and adds way more downforce. So
You're going to need that to balance the front.
Yeah.
That's the thing is if you add more to the front, you got to get more in the rear too. So
Yeah.
you don't want to, have it be off one end.
yep, shoving 295s under the front, like it's gonna be awesome.
It'd be set up all right.
Yeah.
And so what tracks are we going to see that car race at?
It starts at Gingerman in Michigan, and then so we'll be at Gingerman, Mid Ohio, Road America, Lime Rock, Chicago is Autobahn, and then Pit Race at the end of the year. So if you guys are in any of those areas, you can hop on the Grid Life site and check out the dates, and we'll be there. Usually it's pretty cheap to come check it out.
They also do live stream it.
Yeah, they do live stream it.
So
So
watch every race this year.
Thought about that, yeah. So we can post those on our Paragon Underground and Facebook and stuff. Be like, check us out, and we can also live stream from inside the car. Which,
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So thanks Starlink.
Yep. Pretty neat. Yeah. Yeah. They might put, they do onboard stuff too. Like the production quality of Grid Life
Yeah,
is insane right now. Meaning that like the way they broadcast, they use drones for footage, they use in-car video, they use, guys on the ground with cameras. So like when you watch Grid Life live, it's every bit as good as watching,
an IMSA race.
an
or-
IMSA race,
yeah,
or
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not. I don't want to quite call it Formula One, but it's not far off. When you get a drone up in the air and you get some of those cool shots, they're doing great with it. So you might see a camera go in the Paragon car, and you get to watch on board as it goes around the track from the comfort of your home if you want.
Yep,
So should be pretty neat.
great. And neither one of us are driving, so hopefully it's quick.
Yeah, because we're not fast. Neither one of
We're
us are
not
fast.
fast, so-
We could get around the track and not crash, but that's
Yeah.
about it.
We got a hot shoe from winning Formula Aaron's
Yeah.
gonna drive, and that guy's quick. So I'm excited to see if he's beating GT4 times
Yeah.
in a basic modified street car, and then we get him in a race car with wider tire and aero.
Yeah, Aaron's a
It's-
great driver too. He's really good, and he's been running that Cayman, so he's used to mid-engine type stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
he should be able to
Well, he's been racing his Stingray now
Exactly.
for a year at
exactly.
track days and stuff. So yeah, he'll be ready.
It should be good.
You guys want to talk about Formula One now?
Yeah, we could touch on Formula One. So trying to just cover some news topics here, some things I wanted to talk about Formula One
Yeah. Yeah.
for next year, 2026. As we know, Cadillac is going to be fielding a car with Andretti. And the thing I wanted to touch upon, and maybe some people in the comments can weigh in on this as well, is I don't understand why General Motors is using Cadillac brand for Formula One, let alone IMSA. They got the prototypes cars.
Yep.
When they're trying to build this Corvette brand and then maybe branch it off to an SUV or maybe another smaller car, I feel like they missed a marketing opportunity there to get that Corvette name out there more, especially when Cadillac has always been seen as kind of like an old man's thing.
Yeah.
And they're pushing it to try to be more electrified.
Yeah.
Just feel like they missed the mark, but I'm also not a marketing executive for General Motors, so
Did they?
I'm curious to why they're doing that.
Do they? And this is just a kind of a wild guess, not any kind of knowledge, but do they have their performance people under the Cadillac brand, like their performance race team type stuff? Maybe it's just like
It's been built into that.
it's built under Cadillac.
Silo.
Yeah, it's kind of built under Cadillac, rather than being built under the Corvette branding, because Cadillac is just more of like it's like the luxury version of GM, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think they've also used Cadillac as sort of like their performance race team branding and name, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they dump their losses under that or something, so they got to use Cadillac. You know what I mean? It's like there's got to be something to it, but I totally agree with you. It's weird branding, for people
Yeah.
that don't know any better, but for people that are like, are familiar with racing, it's like it's not unusual to see Cadillac
Yeah.
name used in performance But I agree. I don't know why they wouldn't maybe try to switch that branding over. But maybe
Yeah.
somebody in the comments will, know the answer to that.
Hopefully, it keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
Does it?
No,
Oh,
but I
man.
am very curious on it. So,
Yeah.
just with like the ZR1 and all the performance that's coming out of GM right now, I like the Cadillac stuff too. The CT5 Blackwing, which we have around here, the Escalade V. They've got these gas powered performance things.
Their Cadillac's doing cool stuff,
Absolutely,
but they're winding it down.
they're winding it down. So that
Well,
makes me wonder. So
At least the plan was to wind it down. Now it kind of looks like we're heading in a different direction with fossil fuels, but
yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see. But maybe they were doing that last hurrah, and like that sedan could fold into Corvette, and then that SUV could fold into Corvette.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's lots of ways for them to do it. I feel like they're kind of just missing a little bit of that mark for the branding
Yeah.
to bring the kids in it. I mean, do you're kind of a kid. Does Cadillac scream performance to you?
No, I always thought of it. It's like the luxury
Yeah.
older person's
Luxury
car.
old man stuff.
Yeah.
That's
It's-
why Jeremy likes it so much.
Right. Yeah.
He's
Exactly.
He's
That's
got
what
he's
on.
got a V8 in a 4-door sedan that's comfortable, and then same thing in your
Love it.
the new SUV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
No, I
Stoplight to stoplight.
I
It's
agree.
awesome.
I mean, because they have like Chevrolet and Corvette Performance.
Yeah.
They have that. Do they have a Cadillac Performance? I mean, I know in like IMSA, I'm a big IMSA guy, so they have in like the prototypes, it's always the Cadillac cars, but they have the C8Rs obviously in the Corvette
Yeah,
racing
you got
team.
the Pratt Miller
Yeah,
guys out
yeah,
there
yeah,
running
yeah.
that, but I don't know. And then they just came out with the GT, the GT3 or GT4 customer car you can buy. That's a Corvette chassis.
Oh yeah, I think
GM.
it's GT. I think it's a GT.
Yes,
Pretty sure.
it's supposed to be. I think it is, but compete against like Porsche, and
Yeah.
Aston.
Yeah,
From a customer team standpoint,
yeah.
the car's not cheap though.
No, it's like what $700 something thousand
Yeah,
dollars.
yeah.
Yep.
We'll see. See where that goes.
How do you think Cadillac will do its first year?
My gut says
Mid pack maybe.
Force India all over again.
You think it's gonna be that bad?
I don't think it's going to go well.
I don't
But
know.
it
I think they could be
depends on
some,
drivers.
They could be some mid pack Martys. It does depend if they get drivers.
Depends who the drivers are. They've got a rules change in 26. The cars change, the rules change. So I think that's going to help them a ton because they're kind of starting at point A with everybody else
Okay.
versus coming in. Like if they were to come in this year on a chassis that's been around several years, trying to keep up with that would be impossible.
Mhm.
So they do have that. So I don't know. Could be pleasantly surprised.
Maybe. Yeah. Be cool
We'll
to see.
Excited for it though. America hasn't really had a good manufacturer. I mean, Haas is kind of American. I mean,
Yeah, they're throwing money at it,
they're throwing money at it, so I can appreciate that.
but it'll be cool to see.
But to see a manufacturer
Yes. Yep.
from America.
To see GM step up and say they've been trying to get into this for a while, right?
Yeah.
They had to partner with Andretti to do it. There was like some drama with this, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think Andretti went to them and asked. I don't know.
I remember
knows?
I remember some drama around this. Other teams didn't want him in, and I don't know. But yeah, so it'll be cool to see that. I think that's nice to see America come to the table with something like this.
You don't follow F1, do you?
Not too much. Not too much.
Right.
A little bit. Very, very, very little.
He likes his car to sound like F1, but doesn't much care for it otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. As CO6, it's got a clean sound.
All right.
So-
Clean sound.
I guess I have up next Paragon new products coming out in the future.
But we
So-
are working on
Maybe you could talk about some stuff that's coming.
Yeah, coming down
farther
the
down the
line. There's always stuff, the project pipeline.
Yeah.
We talked about the Titan 7 custom wheels. They're going to be not really set up for street. They're going to be a track, which we've wanted to do since 2021.
Okay.
But again, not enough cars on track.
Yeah.
I was at Road Atlanta this weekend and probably 7 C8s there.
Really?
And it wasn't a big track day. It was pretty small, pretty chill. So that was impressive to see. I'm like, there we go. And we got more people out. Cars are getting cheaper. Warranties are obviously falling out.
Yep. Is that kind of refreshing to see more
Yeah,
C8s
it's super
out?
refreshing.
You know, I mean,
Yeah, it's cool to see out there, talk to the guys, how excited they are, and them coming and saying, "Oh yeah, we need a little more front tire." Like, oh, we have something coming for that. It's getting there. Apex has got some wheels for it, but they're not as wide or the correct offset to shove tire we want under there. And by not being a streetable tire, it means it may rub at full lock. We are maximizing tire up front. And if you're full lock on a racetrack, something's gone horribly wrong. So it doesn't really matter if the tires are rubbing. Yeah, and then we talked about the Veris stuff that's all coming. Another project we have been working on, which will take a while, is we're working on, we've got our DRL bezel for the Stingray. It's been out.
Yeah.
In 2024, they changed the way, the ECU talks, the CAN bus
Right, like
system
the-
talks.
Yep.
Okay.
So we were getting some hyper flashing and some other issues with those. So they were only working on pre-24 cars. And we've got it figured out now. So
Mhm.
now those are coming out. We expect those to hit in May, which will then fit 20 through 25.
Okay.
It'll work on that entire CAN bus across both cars. That took almost a year to figure out, like back and forth, different boards, all that stuff takes time.
Yep.
So it's always interesting, chatting with people that are outside the industry going, oh, why isn't this done yet? Why can't we get in the ECU? Why isn't this tuned?
Yeah.
People are working on it. It's just not
It's not
easy.
a quick
Yeah.
turnaround.
I mean, you devote resources to it,
Yep.
a lot of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, these cars are very, very complex. Mechanically, ECU side of things, TCM, all of it. It's been a hard thing to crack all the way around
Yeah.
and develop for in general.
It-
Takes time.
And I still don't know if they'll ever be tuned for the 6 because it's that Bosch ECU.
It could be harder. It could be easier. There's
true.
brand new Bosch ECUs out there that people can get into immediately, and then there's ones you have to send to Finland to have one person unlock it and send it back. So that's the thing. It depends on what security package GM went with on the ECM, and I have no idea at this point. But my guess is probably difficult. But
It was difficult as it was for the Stingray, I would imagine.
the Stingray is very
CO6
difficult. Yeah,
is
you have
up
to
there.
ship that ECU out for a special unlock process. So
Yeah, bench process to get
Yeah.
it unlocked.
yeah.
It is what it is. Yeah, I can't think of any other big thing. I mean, we got lots of little stuff
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. Yep.
One thing on the performance side on my plate that I'm going to start working on is Paragon's going to offer its own supercharger kit with custom tuning through HB tuners.
Okay.
So presently, as people probably have seen in our videos and know, we offer ProCharger installation. You can go with ProCharger's base tune that comes from Trifecta, or we can do custom tuning with HB tuners. Our other option is Lingenfelter supercharger kits that comes with their own tuning as well. So we have done some remote tuning for the Magnuson supercharger kit, which is the style used in the Lingenfelter kit, and it's fantastic. It tunes really well. It's very smooth, great drivability. So we're going to put that together with a package for people that want to do, Paragon's package of a supercharger. It'll be based on the Magnuson. So that'll be something that we'll be putting on probably our white car testing, developing everything for, and do some cool videos around that and show that off when it's ready. So,
Absolutely.
yep.
Donuts.
We've also been doing flex fuel too. We're gonna
Flex
be
fuel.
doing some stuff with upgraded fuel injectors and upgraded high pressure pumps, and probably start dabbling into clutches. So we haven't really pushed that aggressively into the performance side because it's you can get ahead of yourself pretty easily, and you can start breaking things pretty easily. And most of our customers that come do business with us, they're not looking for that.
No.
They're looking for reliability. So we've offered performance that fits people's budget and keeps the car reliable. But we're going to start, we are getting guys that are asking, I want to push a little bit more. I want to go a little bit farther. So we're going to start taking our cars down some of those paths too, which will be exciting.
Yeah.
And one thing like you were touching on is like people need to remember that drivability starts to suffer
Mhm.
once you start. And that's why we haven't gone down that road so much, is because drivability does suffer. It's no longer the car you want to take your wife out in, go on
The
date
heads,
night.
yeah, like the heads
We're gonna-
cam car.
yeah.
The heads cam car sounds amazing, but it's going to shake your coffee out of your hand
Yeah.
at idle.
The heads
You
and
know,
cam car when it sits there
yeah.
is the coolest thing to watch.
Yeah,
To watch
yeah.
You just sit there and watch the back of the cars. Wah, 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 wah,
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's
yes.
it's an experience, but yeah, like you said, the drivability is not super crisp and clean,
Yeah.
but that's just the big cam stuff. So
That's what comes with that.
yeah, and sometimes like with the Pro Charger stuff, we've seen some drivability stuff there that we're still kind of fighting with, but
Yeah.
but it's getting better and better as we do more with it.
Yeah, everything takes time.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's the key takeaway.
It doesn't happen overnight,
No.
but we're getting there.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, I think that's about it. All I've got on my side.
I can't think of any. Rob, do you think of any new that we're holding on? I kind of want to like let people that are listening to the podcast kind of have that
yeah, like a little extra. Yeah. I'm trying to
tidbit of
think.
what we're working on.
We don't want to give it all away. This is just podcast number 2. So
True,
we gotta
true.
keep them
Yeah,
to-
well,
Give it all away.
I'll think about it.
I think this was a pretty good podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, simple to the point.
Yeah. Quick and easy.
We're going to have guests on from time to time. I think in the
Yeah.
future, we're going to look to having someone from Veris on, somebody from Winning Formula on to talk
Yeah.
about more racing, Aventury. We're going to try to have those guests talk about more product specific stuff or the insight into the industry and all that stuff. So it's super cool. If anybody has questions, leave them in the comments. It
Yeah.
gives us something to talk about.
Yeah.
This one thing that I see on our little note board there, somebody mentioned to me before we leave this, is that the coupe and the hardtop convertible for the ZR1 will have different power. Probably they were publishing horsepower number for the HTC because the coupe has more ventilation, or the intake structure is different because of the roof doesn't have to come off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so GM published the hardtop convertible numbers, and people are thinking that the coupe is going to be 50 to 90 more horsepower because of that change. So we won't know until they
Yeah.
come into the hands of people and we
Yeah.
start to dyno, the differences between C and the coupe there. So
Yeah.
kind of excited to see if that
I was gonna say,
rumor
do you
is
think
correct.
Do you think that's it?
I can see it be definitely plausible.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I just want to dyno either one of them. I'm very interested to see what these things put down to the wheels. I know we've had some guesses, and I'm thinking it's got to be 900 to 930 at the wheels.
Yeah, high 8s, low 9s.
So it's going to be Looney Tunes. So and we've got a customer who should be getting one pretty quickly and bringing it right here for some dyno stuff. So hopefully that'll be a cool thing we can do soon.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see it in the shop. Will Paragon or either of you plan to get a ZR1 anytime?
I don't think we'll ever get one here. I mean, besides maybe a couple customer cars.
Yeah.
I think production's going to be low enough. It doesn't really. I mean, the rest of the car is very similar to the Z6.
Yeah, it's not.
But
As much as we'd like to justify one
Yeah,
and,
you're right.
and write it off, it probably isn't the
it
most.
doesn't seem like a great.
Probably
idea.
isn't a great use of funds here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that get them are going to keep them mostly unmodified.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might lower them,
Yeah.
change some wheels. But other than that, like what else do you have to do to a 1,000 horsepower
I was
car?
gonna say there's not much.
There's
performance wise, not a bunch. Maybe
Nothing.
intake.
just
that's
cover
about
things in carbon fiber and enjoy it.
it. Yeah.
Go do mile runs.
Yeah. I guess that's the other thing with these cars is, like you said, a majority of them are probably gonna sit in the garage. They're not gonna make it out on the track.
They'll make it to Cars and Coffee. You'll end up with a couple crazy guys that do put them on track.
Yeah.
Somebody will put one in a lake.
Oh,
soon.
for sure in a
soon
lake.
like on the way home from buying it.
Right.
Yeah.
From the dealership.
Yeah.
And
I'm
do a-
scared. This is a lot of power for people to have on public roads.
It's a lot.
Absolutely.
giving the typical Corvette owner, stereotypical Corvette owner, 1,000 horsepower.
In a mid-engine car that snaps on you if you lift off the throttle too quickly. Yeah, it's going to be great. But GM's done a great job with the handling. Hopefully they can sort that out.
It reminds me of a time I was with my father-in-law, and he had a C7 at the time, Z06, and it was colder out, and we were getting barbecue, and we come out, and he points the car straight, and he's got the typical on-off for a guy, and not a let's roll into it.
Yeah.
It's
like,
also
like we're trained
it's
as
also an automatic, so it downshifts.
yes, so downshifts. Whereas race car guys we apply throttle differently and stuff, and hammered into it, so it dropped gear, and that back end just went. He had turned off traction and stuff too.
Oh, he turned everything off?
Yeah,
He's trying to be cool for Jeremy.
yeah.
Right.
And just that back just came around on the highway, And I just looked at him like, you almost died. Luckily, he was in the right and it went to the left. I'm like, you can't do this. Tires are cold. It doesn't work, so.
Boomers being fools.
But that's how they get balled up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to leave. You're on the street. Always leave.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Traction stability should always stay on. I don't ever turn mine off unless I'm doing donuts.
Yep.
Then it comes off.
That's the hot tip takeaway from this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the Jeremy keynote.
If you're running ZR1, and it was Z06, probably a Stingray. Leave the nannies on the street. Good idea.
Alrighty, well, I think that's gonna do it. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to hop on here and chat with me on.
Thanks,
couple
Rob,
things.
for hosting.
Yeah. No,
you didn't know until yesterday, but you were the host of this podcast.
Yeah. No, learned
Yeah.
some. So, looking forward to many more. So, I appreciate you guys taking the time.
No problem.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Cool.